Welcome to this explainer. So you are mostly water. We hear this fact literally all the time, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what that actually means for the microscopic machinery inside your cells? You might be used to thinking of water as just a passive liquid that fills up a cup, or maybe just the quiet background fluid where the real biology happens. But the truth is far more exciting. Water is actually the primary actor on the biochemical stage. Today, we're cracking the chemical code to see how physical chemistry bridges into a true physiological understanding of the human body. Here's a quick roadmap for our masterclass today. We'll start with the physics of water, move into thermodynamics and architecture, and then explore chemical reactivity and ionization. From there, we'll map out biological pH compartments, unpack weak acids and pKa, and finish up with physiological buffer systems. It's a complete micro to macro biochemical journey, so let's get into it. Okay, kicking things off with section 1, where we establish the atomic foundation of our aqueous environment. Welcome to the absolute foundation of life. When we really dive into the study of cellular biology, we are ultimately exploring the profound impact of water and pH on living systems. It's impossible to separate the structural integrity of a cell from the dynamics of water. To truly grasp these complex behaviors, we've got to look at the unique geometry of the water molecule itself. Water is an irregular, skewed tetrahedron. The oxygen atom sits right at the center, holding onto unshared electron pairs. Because the two hydrogen atoms are pushed together at a very specific 105-degree angle, the electron distribution is heavily skewed. Oxygen is highly electronegative, meaning it's actively pulling negatively charged electrons away from the hydrogen nuclei. This uneven sharing creates a charge asymmetry, literally turning every single water molecule into a microscopic magnet, or an electrical dipole. Because of this strong dipole, water possesses an exceptionally high dielectric constant, which simply means it's uniquely capable of neutralizing attractions between other charged molecules. Without this fundamental geometric asymmetry, the solvent properties that allow ions to freely circulate in our bloodstream simply wouldn't exist. Now, let's look at how these molecules interact through hydrogen bonding networks. Because opposite charges attract, the partially positive hydrogen atom of one water molecule is immediately drawn to the partially negative oxygen atom of a neighboring molecule, creating a transient hydrogen bond. While each individual bond is incredibly brief, we're talking fractions of a second, they constantly break and reform. On average, each water molecule associates with about 3.5 others, creating this massive, interconnected tetrahedral lattice. To put this into perspective, let's compare water and methane. They have very similar molecular masses, but because methane lacks a strong dipole moment, it can't form hydrogen bonds, so it boils at a freezing negative 162 degrees Celsius and exists as a gas. Water, on the other hand, requires massive heat energy to disrupt its lattice, allowing it to remain liquid all the way up to 100 degrees Celsius. This extreme thermodynamic resilience is exactly what maintains the liquid environment required for life on Earth. Let's transition into section 2 and see how these subatomic physics principles begin to shape large molecular structures and govern solubilities. Hydration models brilliantly illustrate how water and pH govern solubility. Because water is such a powerful dipole with that high dielectric constant we mentioned, it actually reduces the electrostatic attraction between oppositely charged ions to just 1/78th of what their strength would be in a pure vacuum. When a charged ion enters a watery environment, dipolar water molecules absolutely swarm it. They arrange themselves in a highly regular fashion corresponding to the ion's charge, forming what's called a protective hydration shell. This high dielectric constant allows water to immobilize its inner sphere to form structures like metal hexahydrates. Neutral organic molecules with hydroxyl or carboxylate groups dissolve easily too, because they can just swap out water-water hydrogen bonds for solute water hydrogen bonds. If our biological solvent lacked this incredible ability to form hydration shells, cellular transport would literally grind to a halt. So the absolutely crucial point here is entropy. Have you ever wondered why oil and water refuse to mix? Well, the answer lies in the universe's relentless drive toward chaos, or entropy. To understand this, let's use a dance floor analogy. Think of water molecules as people on a crowded, highly synchronized dance floor. When a nonpolar, hydrophobic molecule like methane walks in, someone who clearly doesn't know the dance steps, the surrounding water molecules have to stop freely moving and form a rigid circle, a clathrate cage around them, just to keep the dance going. This severely limits their freedom, minimizing the entropy of the water, which the universe hates. It's thermodynamically unfavorable. To fix this, nonpolar molecules spontaneously clump together. This is the oil drop effect. By bunching up, they drastically reduce their exposed nonpolar surface area, freeing the water molecules from those rigid cages back onto the dance floor and dramatically increasing the system's entropy. This exact thermodynamic mechanism is what forces the hydrophobic side chains of amino acids into the hidden interior of a folding protein. Building on that entropy concept, we encounter amphipathic molecules. These guys possess both water-loving polar heads and water-fearing non-polar tails. They face a major thermodynamic dilemma in water and have to satisfy both regions simultaneously. Governed entirely by the entropy rules of the oil drop effect we just discussed, they spontaneously organize. They can form surface films or spherical aggregates called micelles, where the non-polar tails hide inside a dry core. But most importantly for human biology, they form extended lipid bilayers and vesicles. In a bilayer, two sheets align so their non-polar tails face each other, forming a hydrophobic core while presenting their polar heads to the surrounding fluid. Without these driving forces dictated by water, the lipid bilayer membranes that enclose every single cell in your body to create vital compartments simply could not exist. While strong covalent bonds act as the unbreakable spine defining the primary sequence of molecules, the rules of water actually dictate the non-covalent forces that govern a molecule's 3D architecture. We can categorize these hidden stabilizers into 4 major types of non-covalent interactions. First, we have hydrogen bonds, which share unshielded protons. Second, we have salt bridges, which are electrostatic interactions between oppositely charged groups. Third, we have the hydrophobic effect, which is that systemic thermodynamic effect driven by maximizing water's entropy. And finally, van der Waals forces, extremely weak transient dipole attractions that become incredibly powerful cumulatively. Water directly competes with these forces, constantly attempting to form its own bonds. Ultimately, the functional competence of DNA and proteins depends entirely on the delicate balance of these hidden stabilizers within our aqueous environment. Shifting focus to Section 3, we'll demonstrate that water is not merely a passive background solvent, but actually a highly active reactant. Due to its lone pairs of electrons carrying a partial negative charge, water is an excellent nucleophile, meaning it actively attacks electron-poor atoms. This leads to hydrolysis, where water cleaves peptide or ester bonds, a reaction that is thermodynamically favored. Conversely, condensation joins monomers together and expels water, which is unfavored. Now this bringing us to a really fascinating biological paradox. If hydrolysis is favored, why don't our proteins just spontaneously dissolve into a pile of mush? The answer is that while water inherently wants to break these bonds, the reaction happens far too slowly on its own. Our biopolymers remain perfectly stable because hydrolytic reactions require specific protein catalysts, enzymes, to accelerate the rate only when it's biologically appropriate. We've finally reached the central mathematical concept linking the dual nature of water and pH, the slight tendency of water to ionize. A very, very tiny fraction of water naturally dissociates into a positively charged hydronium ion and a negatively charged hydroxide ion via intermolecular proton transfer. Breaking down the calculation, at any given instant, the probability a hydrogen exists as an ion is 1.8 times 10 to the negative 9. Multiplied by pure water's high concentration of 55.56 moles per liter, we get exactly 1.0 times 10 to the negative 7 moles per liter of protons. Because water's concentration is effectively constant, it's incorporated into the ion product of water constant, known as Kw. This is the foundational mathematical baseline for all acid-base chemistry in the human body. Next up, Section 4. Let's pivot to Sorensen's logarithmic scale and see how macrobiological environments differ in acidity. Working with tiny scientific notation numbers is pretty tedious, right? So Sorensen introduced the pH scale as the negative logarithm of the hydrogen ion concentration. Because it's logarithmic, a difference of just 1 pH unit represents a massive 10-fold change in actual proton concentration. By mapping these values out, we can see how our body actively engineers distinct chemical compartments. We start with the extreme acidity of gastric juice around pH 2.0 for breaking down food. Lysosomes inside our cells operate at 4.5 to 5.5, ensuring their destructive enzymes are safely isolated from the neutral cytoplasm, which sits at 7.0 to 7.3. But notice our blood plasma. It operates in a critically narrow margin of 7.35 to 7.45. Even a slight deviation from this tight window results in life-threatening acidosis or alkalosis. Now let's bridge the gap into protonic equilibrium in Section 5 by focusing on the partial dissociation of essential biochemicals. Unlike strong acids that completely shatter into ions, essential biochemicals act much more conservatively. They only partially dissociate. Just as pH uses a logarithm to describe proton concentration, pKa describes an acid's exact dissociation constant. The rule is simple. The lower the pKa, the stronger the acid. But environmental structure matters immensely here. An adjacent negative charge will hinder a proton's release due to electrostatic repulsion. Furthermore, the dielectric medium is critical. Moving a weak acid from a watery exterior into the nonpolar, oily interior of a protein radically shifts its pKa because the nonpolar environment cannot efficiently solvate charged species. In pharmacology, this strictly dictates exactly how a drug absorbs across your tissues. Enter the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. This is the ultimate predictive tool for mastering water and pH dynamics. It directly connects environmental acidity with a molecule's innate acid strength and the ratio of its unprotonated to protonated forms. When looking at this equation, just use this mnemonic device. Base is the boss, so A- is above HA. The conjugate base, A-, goes on top of the fraction, right above the weak acid, HA. There's a crucial milestone to note. When the concentration of the conjugate base perfectly equals the weak acid, the ratio is 1:1. The log of 1 is exactly 0, meaning pH equals pKa, and the acid is exactly half neutralized. The flat middle section of a sigmoidal titration curve shows us that molecules are incredibly resistant to environmental changes when they hover right near their specific pKa value. Finally, let's enter section 6 to explore how the body clinically defends against lethal biochemical shifts. To survive the constant daily production of metabolic acidic byproducts, our bodies rely heavily on buffer systems. Think of a buffer as a chemical shock absorber on a car. If you hit a sudden pothole of metabolic acid, the buffer compresses to absorb the impact. The conjugate base aggressively binds the free protons, preventing your blood pH from crashing and keeping the biochemical ride perfectly smooth. Conversely, if a base threatens the system, the weak acid sacrifices its proton to neutralize it into harmless water. Buffering is clinically effective only in a tight range of the pKa plus or minus 1.0 pH unit. Vital systems like the bicarbonate buffer in extracellular fluid and orthophosphate inside the cell act as these life-saving physiological shock absorbers every second of your life. This all comes together in one beautifully interconnected, continuous biological loop. The physical shape of the water molecule establishes the solvent structure. This forces nonpolar molecules to hide, creating the thermodynamic mandate that drives the formation of lipid bilayers. Simultaneously, water's slight ionization creates the baseline for pH and protons, dictating the pKa of weak acids. Finally, the prevailing pH determines the net charge of macromolecules, dictating the noncovalent forces that fold proteins into active 3D shapes. You literally cannot change one quadrant without instantly affecting all the others. This loop is the dynamic chemical logic that makes human life possible. All right, let's quickly recap our high-level takeaways from today's explainer. First, water's irregular dipole structure makes it the ultimate biological solvent, heavily shielding ions. Second, the hydrophobic effect is driven by the thermodynamic need to maximize water's entropy, not by some actual fear of water. Third, the math of pH and the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation allows us to predict protonic equilibria precisely. And finally, physiological buffers act as essential shock absorbers, relying on weak acid dissociation to defend our highly controlled biological compartments from lethal metabolic shifts. Make no mistake, molecular physics truly dictates systemic survival. Thanks for joining me, and keep exploring the incredible biological matrix.